Hi, AJ, it's me. If you know once the God blesses you, because we talked about the Bible and what is the God is gonna bless us, but the men and women who is still left alive, like being in the other room, who's being a chicken in the other room, and when I'm being young adults who could be the loved life, like a man and a woman who is the loved life, like for our man and women. And I'm actually coloring right now. You know what the Bible says. Being that Jesus Christ want to be the loved life. The love in your life is called being man and women who is the lovable, who is being like God says. If Jesus gonna say like this, to see. If a Jesus says to me is that I was the greatest girl and the greatest girlfriend for the rest of my boyfriend's life, I also can know about what is it God came from Jesus Christ. For a man and women who is there together, for a pride of a man who could be the love, the life, like always talked about the love. And what I do, I talked about my life with him. And what I do, I talked about being together with him. And he actually remember our lives that we've been married for the last 20 years ago. um Someday, if I was his greatest girlfriend to him, if we were married, someday we're gonna get married till we're 40, and he is going to talk about what kind of Bible we're gonna play, and we talked about being together. Well, what we do, we could talk about that, and the Bible says that if a man and woman who is there together and being for full of life, like it's called being man and women who is together. um because what I do, um I made our life like if there was a man who should be loved, who should be respectful to love the life, is copying men and women who made God, who said to themselves like adults who can be like really great life that we are. Because if I was a great life and a great girlfriend, and I was a great relationship, because the last 20 years ago, I was talking about all kinds of relationship, because if you have a lesser life with your boyfriend and the rest of the world for the rest of your boyfriend's life, like me, I have a boyfriend, and because what we do, we talk about our relationship with our boyfriends, like people can care relationship, like only someday want to have kids someday, and someday if I was talking about my own relationship with my own boyfriend AJ Hangoman, he was the greatest man, and he's the great Alvin Jason Hangoman. He would be a great guy for me, and someday he would have told me I was his great girlfriend, and he would have told me that if the Bibles could say it to me, that like right now he would have said things Jesus could have said, well, it was a great life you two made, and the Jesus is gonna say that if it was a man and women who being responsible adults who can be married and takes care of each other, and that's how we make our life like responsibilities. Like if I was married to him, I would have talked about my own relationship with him. He would have said, "This is a great man," and he's gonna be like, "I'm a great man," and I am. And if you have a man who loves you, it's called like a man who should make some great life with you, because that's being responsibility, like a man who could being loved you, like me, I have love for my own husband too. Someday, if I was married to him, someday he would have said, if I was married to Misty Parker, I wouldn't have this life. It's called being man and women who is there together for the rest of their relationship. But if I was like doing something like that, like a great life and a great relationship, that's called being man and women who is gonna be lovable and like we can talk about it if we want, and because we talked about it a lot, you know, um, we talked about what we can do together, and even if I was married to my boyfriend, he would have talked about the Bible, and he knows about life are, and he tells me about all kinds of life like me, and what I do, I made this for him. I made this for us when we get married, and I'm trying to like think what I wanted to do. Yeah, and that's how we have life. We have boyfriends. We made our boyfriend to love us. It's called Relationship for a Man and Women who is responsible adults who can be left their life with their own wife. If I were like someday was married to my boyfriend AJ, so someday if I was married to him, I made this for us when we get married. But you know, I was a great girlfriend of his life, and he can hear me what I'm talking about because he would have said, if we were married, we would have had this life. It's called being men and women. Who is in love the life is called being men and women who can be together. What we can do is share with our boyfriends. If we did something like want to get married and have children, but it's called being men and women who is being in love. Um, like if you had your own family, like your own boyfriend, and that's probably being life. Like we could talk about being together is called relationships. Like we can talk about our relationship with our own boyfriend's life. Like I'm gonna talk about AJ because he was a wonderful adult and a wonderful man for us to taking care of his own life with his own wife. But if he was married to me, he would have talked about being together. He would have talked about it's our relationship. He would have talked about this is a great relationship. He would have known what God said. Even if you guys run YouTube, ever know about life. And like me, someday if people was married, like people can know about God, so it's being together with their man, and it's like calling me man and women, and if I was like doing something like that, I would say, if there was a man who loved me, like my boyfriend Alvin Jason, he would have said something like, "I always love you. For rest of hearts in the world relationship, you married me." And he would have think that's how men do take care of their wife. They want to get married to her and stuff. It sounds like my own husband, Alvin Jason, told me is that we talked about how much as we love, how much as we want to be married, and how much as we want to be together. And we talked about like being together is copying man and women. If you know, is that because we talked about us being together, because we talked about us want to be married, and someday if he was saying something like, Misty Parker, I love you, honey. And he wouldn't told me I was this great girlfriend in his life. But someday we're going to get married, someday we are, Um, because if you people know about your own boyfriend's life, like I know about my boyfriend's life, he had this relationship. It's called being man and women who can be have relationship. And if AJ was turning this life about me, he would know if there's a man or women who could think that there's like a lots of life about when we turn 40. So we're gonna be 32 on February years. So my birthday is Sunday. On February 12th, I'll be 32. And AJ's gonna be 30, 32, like me, pretty soon. And he knows about how much he loves me. I'm a girlfriend because I was been his girlfriend in his life. And he talked about all kinds of life about me. What he can do. It talked about all kinds of stuff about being together. And we could talk about when we have family who love us. We have Grandma Parker. When Grandma Parker died, she was a wonderful young woman who was married like me. And someday she would said that if she was married, she would have said when she was married, she was having a wonderful husband and a wonderful kids. Someday she would have said that if you and AJ was married, you guys are gonna be like me and my husband someday. So someday she would say that if she's gonna say that if I was doing someday like her, because someday she's gonna talk about her relationship. If she was like doing her life like this, like I'm a great grandma for the rest of my children's life and my whole family and my whole entire life, she would have said. And if I was Grandma Parker's great life from her great grandchildren, my mom was talking about all kinds of life about us when me and AJ gets married. We talked about all kinds of love for us and me and AJ gets married for the rest of our life. We talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about all kind of relationship. We talked about being together. We talked about want to get married. We want to be like our grandparents and stuff. I wanted to be like my Grandma Parker. He wanted to be like his grandpa. He wanted to be like his grandma and grandpa and like me being with Grandma Parker. But actually, he wouldn't know what is the life are. But if you want to watch it, I wanted to say thank you. Yeah.